Happy holidays and welcome back to Love Essentials with Tara
and Hannah. And last week we told you that we were going to continue the conversation and talk about intimacy in this episode. However, we got some feedback from our viewers that wanted to dive a little bit deeper into this nurturing conversation. So Tara, can you go ahead and help us get back into it?
Yeah, let's roll it back because we left with so much on the table and we really need to talk about this concept of how to nurture our spouse.
Right.
And if we don't get that, we might as well throw the whole marriage in the trash.
Right.
Because if we don't get the concept that God has given us resources to give to our spouse in a loving and kind and patient way, this is where a lot of breakdowns happen in marriage.
Right.
There's a lot of conversations about, why don't you already know this? Why do I have to teach you this?
Right.
Why do I have to train you for this? And especially with our wives, I'm sorry, we're wives, so that's what we're going to come to, because we are the helpers.
Right.
And I think, Hannah, we have a lot of wives in society that didn't know they were signing up
to be a helper.
To help.
Yeah.
Meaning to train, to give him things that he doesn't have.
Right.
And even you have women who will say, oh, I'm trying to help him. But how are you helping him? What is the language when you're helping him?
Right.
How do you feel? Do you feel exhausted because he didn't change right away because you said it last week and you didn't see it but one time and the next week he failed?
Right.
So that's a whole nother conversation of nurturing your spouse into a relationship where they are comfortable.
Right. And I think it also has to do with understanding exactly whether or not you are trying to train and help, or if you're trying to dictate and change, you know, because the Bible even talks about when the whole fall happened with Adam and Eve, and God said to Eve, you will want to rule over your husband, but he will rule over you. And I think a lot of times we as wives, we're trying to control our husbands and have them do things our way and the way that we want them to do it, versus really training and nurturing them and helping them in their weaker areas and helping them improve and to grow and to develop and to be stronger. And that's what we're supposed to be as the helper, as the accountability partner, as we've been talking about in these past episodes. You know, our role and our responsibility as a wife, like those are the things that we're supposed to do, not just dictate, because no, they're not our child, but we're telling them what to do.
They're not our child and they're not women.
Right.
They're not women. So when a woman says, why don't he just understand romance? And he doesn't understand emotions, and he doesn't understand how to love on me. Let me just set this straight. Men don't watch romance movies.
Right.
They don't listen to R&B music all day or rhythm and blues. They don't do that.
Right.
If they didn't grow up in a household where there was a father that they saw nurturing and romancing their mother, and then if you also get a man that didn't grow up with sisters, how is he supposed to have all this insight into how a woman functions,
right,
and how to really be there for you and nurture and show compassion? They don't know. So I need some people out there to understand they don't know. So if they don't know, and it's apparent they don't know because it's not coming naturally.
Right.
It's not something he's just doing. It's something you have to keep reminding him, which we get so frustrated with. Why do I keep having to remind you? And why don't you just know? Okay, so he doesn't. Let's accept that.
Right.
So now that we know he doesn't, the training must begin.
Right.
So now what does the training look like?
Right. But before we even get into what it looks like, I feel like there's some women out there who will say, well, during the courting phase or during the dating phase, he knew how to romance me. He knew how to chase after me. He knew all those things. But all of a sudden he caught me. We're married now. And that's just out the window. So he all of a sudden doesn't know how to do that when he did it before.
Okay. So let's address it.
Right.
Because men are chasers. And when they do talk to their boys, you know, the other men and homeboys, they get tips on how to chase,
right,
and how to grab and hunt down a woman and get her. So they do know how to do that.
Yeah.
Let's be clear. They knew how to get you. What they don't know how to do is maintain you. And your changing ways.
Right.
Because women, first of all, the $5 daisies from the grocery store worked on you.
Right. It don't work
20
anymore.
years ago.
Right.
You were so happy to get that cheap little bouquet of mixed flowers that look like somebody dug them out of the yard. You're like, oh, here's some sweet. But 10, 15 years later, I want roses.
Right.
I want 2 dozen. Look at everything I
Yes.
do for you. I gave you kids. I'm in here running your
Right.
household. How
I
dare
wanna
you bring
upgrade
that?
on my ring. Like, hello.
That little diamond was cute when we were
Right.
broke and you're working. I want this. I want to see this. I deserve. I'm
Yeah.
entitled to because I'm your wife.
Yeah.
So don't, and then we look and we compare
Uh-huh. Yep.
to what other marriages, what's happening with other husbands are doing for their wife because they're social media. So we know everybody else's husband is awesome and ours is subpar. And so
Right.
we look at the highlights of everybody's marriage and we even compare ourselves, our 3-year marriage to somebody who's been together 25 years.
Right. They got some time. They've put their time in.
The wife has done some training.
Right. But
Some-
we don't talk about that training part. I feel like that, and that's one of the things for me. The Bible talks about like Naomi and Ruth and how Naomi was training Ruth what to do, how to go out there to get her Boaz. I feel like we don't have that same type of training now with
No.
the older women teaching the younger women how to do those kind of things. And it's not even so much that we don't have the older women wanting to train. It's a lot of times us young women
Won't receive it.
They won't want to receive it. Oh no.
What do you know? We're in a whole different generation, and I'm a career woman, and I'm a new millennium woman, and I don't. That's how y'all did it, and y'all
Right.
were servants, and they were walking all over y'all, and and I watched my mother get run over, and my grandmother not live their best life.
Right.
I'm new, and I'm not doing all that. But then in the same breath, they wonder why the marriages ain't lasting 30, 40 years
Right.
like my grandma and my great grandmother. Because we are impatient
Right.
in this generation of women. We want everything fast.
Right.
This generation period wants
We live
everything
in an
fast.
Insta world.
Instant. And so I need instant change.
Yeah.
I need you to be going to self-help groups, workshops, whatever, just like I'm
By yourself.
by yourself. I'm not even going. If I'm going by myself, you need to go by yourself. I went and got a book, you go get a book.
Right.
And I need change. And I'm actually not willing to patiently, slowly,
Right.
lovingly train you to have the things that God put in me that you don't have.
Because I need you to get it. If I can get it, then that means you can get it too, because we're both smart. Because remember, I wanted a 10. Because I'm a 10, so I'm going to need you to be a 10. So if I already know how to figure this out on my own, and you a 10, then you should know how to figure it out on your own too.
See, and therein lies the problem because
Right.
we're neither 10 in all areas of life.
Right.
We're not 10 in every
No.
area of life. I'm a 10 when it comes to nurturing, compassion. I know how to look into what the kids want. I'm a discerning about those type of needs. But I'm not a 10 in a lot of things that my husband has.
Right.
And a lot of us are not willing to admit that there are a lot of things we're not 10s in.
Right.
But he is a 10 in those areas.
Right. And it's not all areas, like you said.
No.
It's in some areas. I think one of the things that we also need to realize is that we're not looking for somebody to complete us. We're looking for someone to complement
Yes.
us. I need for my husband to complement my areas in which I'm not as strong in. And I complement him in those areas. And that's the reason why we come together. Like, it's great where, you have so much in common. But it's in those areas that you don't have things in common. Like, I'm a very organized person. Anthony has very good organization skills as well. But it's in certain things. When it comes to like wanting to plan a trip, he has a full itinerary. Where for me, going on a vacation, it's a vacation, bruh. I don't need to have all
You wanna rest.
I want to rest. But when it comes to like, okay, organization in the house and doing all this other stuff, that's a weak area for him. But I compliment him because that's where my organization skills come in.
Yes.
And I have the grocery list, or I have this list, or the budget, and all of those things for us to carry through.
Yes.
And I think that that's what women need to understand. You're not looking for a man to complete you, because it's God who completes you.
Yes.
But to have a man compliment you, which means you're not the 10, he's not the 10, but you're 10 in certain areas, as you said. And in those areas where you're not, that's where he compliments you, because he's the 10.
So let's talk about the Facebook post.
Yes.
So let's share this with you all. So I saw a Facebook post, and there was it was a women's group that will remain nameless, and somebody put a picture in the women's group and said, "I'm so angry with this picture," and it was a picture of a man and a woman at their wedding, and they said, "I'm so angry because she's a dentist and he's a security guard."
Okay.
And I don't understand why women want to marry less than she really married beneath herself. And there were women in this group, to my shock, and dismay were like, yeah, she married beneath herself. We're always taking L's for these men. And why would she do that? She just brought herself down. And I was like, what's happening? What's actually happening? I immediately understood why a lot of women are single.
Right.
And before y'all cut me off, let me explain. Before you get tight.
Right.
She is a dentist, which means that she was able to go through school. We don't know if those were resources that her parents helped her with, scholarships, whatever it was. She was able to get a degree and have a very, good earning type career.
Right.
This guy, with them not knowing his background, whether he had to struggle to get through school, because the thing was, they said he has an associate's degree, an AA. That's all he has. And she has a dental degree. So not knowing how hard it was for him to get that AA, meaning may not have had financial support from his parents,
Right.
May not have been as intellectual as his wife to get through school and finish. It could have been a struggle, but something he's progressing towards.
Right.
But he is a hard worker. He works. They weren't even interested in what does he bring to her.
Right.
What does he bring to her? He could be romancing her, loving her, helping her with her health.
Right.
She's so busy as a dentist, they don't know what he's doing for her at home. They were already just dentist, security guard. Now, here's the thing that I need everybody to understand.
Yeah. Break it down.
God gives out the resources.
Right.
God gives out the intelligence.
Yes.
God chooses the parents. So if God gave her all of those resources to get to where she is, her need is not financial when she's looking for a husband.
Right.
That's not a need she has. It actually opens her up to consider a lot more men, a larger pool of men, instead of just financial security, because she has that.
Right.
But you have a lot of women with financial security that say, I make 6 figures, he needs to make 6 figures. No, he doesn't.
Right.
Why do you need 2 6-figure incomes when most households do not have that? If you have financial security, that is not your biggest priority when you're looking for a male. There are other things that you may actually need, because financial security is not
But
that.
we're not looking about the need. We're looking at the fact that, if I'm making 6 figures, he needs to make 6 figures because that's more blessing that's coming in the household. So we can buy the big house, we can have the fancy cars, all about the show, all about the
That's what it is.
That's what that is.
It's the show, because I'm gonna need to explain to all of these people out here why I didn't marry on my level.
Right. And on top of that, I think it took her, that was big of her, the fact that she was in love, got in love. And I'm assuming that it's for love that she got married, that she married a security officer when she's over here as a dentist. But the thing is that with that, she is secure in herself.
Yes.
And secure in her relationship. You know what I'm saying? And I think that for him also, here it is, my wife, I can brag on her. Do you see the kind of, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're bragging on each other, but you know that it's really about love. Because what would you rather, Tara? Would you rather a man who is making the 6 figures but doesn't treat you right, doesn't have time for you because he's so busy on a 6-figure job? Or would you want the security officer who comes home and because he got off of work before you did and already has dinner prepared for you, waiting for you to come home?
Available for the children.
Exactly.
Because those 6-figure jobs cost. Because when you start making that amount of money, that's somebody owns your time.
Right.
So her time is owned, his time is owned. They're never seeing each other. That's what's happening in a lot of these power couple households.
Right.
Both of us are so busy, we don't even see each other.
Right.
So if I'm so busy, I don't need a spouse with that same type of job, occupation, same type of schedule. I don't really need that.
Right.
One of us need to be available for the household.
For the household. For
And
the
so, hello women, let me give you permission to say, Father, what is my actual need and who would I actually do well with that's going to, as you said, compliment me? Because don't let society tell you what compliments you. Because if you're meeting someone just like you with the same resources, that means the lack in both of your areas, because everybody has a lack, it won't be met.
Right.
It won't actually be met because this man has the same as me. So what about the things I don't have? He doesn't have them.
Right. If you're both 10s, what are you doing for each other?
Nothing.
Right.
Which is why they're divorcing.
And
because
which is why you can have a wandering eye and going off to other places, because it's just like, she doesn't do anything or he doesn't do anything for me. But you got married because he got the 6 figures.
It looks good on paper.
It looks good on paper. We look good on paper.
And I have had friends that said on paper, we made sense. In the household, we didn't, because we really lived separate lives and we really could do without each other.
That's not marriage.
And they got a divorce because they said we actually were functioning like two single people because there was actually no need between the two of us for each other. Whereas, you know, if you were making that amount of money, but you had somebody affectionate, attending to your needs, you know, making life comfortable and peaceful for you when you got home, that's somebody you need, which is why I'm going to say something else somebody's not going to like. Why some women don't understand why their husband left them and their 6-figure job for a waitress. Oop. So they don't understand why he chose, quote unquote, less of a money maker.
Right.
She's not a boss chick with, you know, stiletto heels and red bottoms and a nice Mercedes Benz and her intellect and all of her degrees. He left this one to go after that one. Why? Because the other one met a need.
Right.
And most of the time, it's a nurturing need.
Nurturing.
It's a nurturing need.
Yes.
Let's pull it back. Because men need encouragement. They need to know I am loved, that I am actually doing something for your life, that I'm fulfilling a purpose in your life. And as women, we have to understand the moment when you keep telling him you're not doing anything for me, he starts to believe he's not doing anything for you.
And if I'm not doing anything, then why am I here?
Why am I here?
Right. And that's when somebody else can come into his ear and start saying things like, oh, I appreciate you. You're so sweet. You're so kind. And that'll have him going over in another area.
Where he's needed.
Because they want to be needed. They want to feel like they're doing something. You know, it takes me back to a conversation I had with a girlfriend in regards to chivalry. Like, you know, that chivalry is dead. And so we got on this conversation because I was saying, and I know I'm already going to put myself out there, transparency. But when I was about maybe 6 months pregnant with Skyland, Anthony had one of his amps in the back of our car. And I wanted to get the amp out. And I had asked him, can you take it out of the car for me? And he was like, yeah, I'll do it. And instant, I wanted it done when I asked for it to be done. I was just like, fine, I'll do it myself. And so I went out there with my 6-month pregnant self to take this big old amp out the car. And so he fussed at me because he was just like, if anything would have happened to my baby,
harming yourself and the child.
Right. And because I just wanted something done when I wanted it done. But my point was that he was like, I wanted to do it for you. I didn't do it when you asked me to, but I wanted to. And in my mind, it's just like, well, I don't need you to do it for me. I can do it myself. And that's where I was wrong. Because yes, I asked him to do it. I asked him because I didn't want to do it. But when he didn't do it when I asked him to do it, it was just like, well, I don't need you to do it. I can go ahead and do it myself instead of sitting here
when you
waiting
really needed him to do that.
Right. And he should have, because I was pregnant. You know what I'm saying? But it's little things like that where I feel that women, and it comes back to that whole empowerment thing that we were talking about last time as well. With this whole empowerment, there's nothing wrong with women empowerment, but understand that yes, you can walk this life without a man. It's possible because all you need is God. That's all you need. He is your strength. He is your source. He will be the one that comforts and guides you through life. Yes. So yes, you can do it without him. But is that God's plan for you to do it without him? If he has said you are called to be married, because that's another thing. That's another thing. you know, being a wife is not meant for everybody, even though that's not something that's taught. Because from little girls, where it's put in our minds that, oh, you're supposed to get married. Like that's the checklist. That's the goal. You get married, you have children, you have a great job, and you live happily ever after in this picket fence, 2-story house, whatever. Yes. But not everybody's called.
No. And you know how they know they're not called? If you don't have a helper spirit. If you don't freely give up your time, talents, gifts without resentment, you're not called to be a wife. Quote me. If you struggle with helping, you're not called to be a wife. Right. If it pains you to give up your time and energy to the advancement of another person in a selfless act, You are not called to be a wife. Because the very essence of our creation is to be a helper.
Right.
And if you say, well, I help a little bit, but I'm not going to be able to do that on a consistent basis for the rest of my life, then don't get married. Go help one of these community service places
Right.
or volunteer, for a big brother, big sister type
Yeah, be a
program.
mentor.
Go do that.
Right.
Find an occupation where you help people periodically for pay.
Right.
Because, it's in us to help. So we're going to help somebody.
Right.
But if it's not in your nature to help, where you're not going to always feel like the gratitude is there. You're not going to always feel like...
Because it's not going to always
It's
be there.
not.
Let's just be real. I mean, there are several times where I feel like y'all don't appreciate me. You go through that because sometimes you're not appreciated for the
No.
things you do. People get comfortable with familiarity. You know what I'm saying? It's just like it's expected.
It's expected.
Mommy is expected to cook dinner. Mommy is expected to tuck me in at night or to pick out my clothes. I have all that stuff. My wife, it's expected for her. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
our husbands, they come accustomed to things. And I was told this when I was young because when Anthony and I first got married, I was actually just finished my first year of law school. So I wasn't working. So here it is, I'm a new wife, and I'm like, I'm just going to get all involved in this. And I had his dinner prepared for him as soon as he came home from work, and
For
the
what,
house
3
was
weeks?
clean.
No.
No, this happened for like maybe 3 months because it took me that long to find a job. And so for 3 months, I set this precedence for him. And it became like this expectation that he just, always, so what's for dinner? And, and after a while, it was just like, bro, I'm working too. I'm
Oh,
tired.
he didn't know that was none working you.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, like, men should be doing a lot of this stuff. Like we said in the previous episode, these are activities done together as a household.
Right.
But we have to train. We
Right.
have to have real conversations with these men and say, hey, since I'm working, so I'm helping be provider, I need you to help be caretaker.
Right.
So can we come up with a plan here, some dates here, drop off, pick up is yours on this day, I'm doing this. Like, come together. I have no problem because a lot of women, God has gifted you, giving you resources and intelligence to make money.
Right.
So there's nothing wrong with that. If you're able to make money, go make it. But there needs to be a conversation about
Right.
both of us don't need to be out of the house all day long, 10, 12 hours. What does that look like in our household? Who can pull back? Who can push forward? What is our financial situation? Do we need all that we are trying to bring in?
Right.
Is
We
it
need that.
excess?
Right.
Are we just trying to buy things and we have no relationship?
Keeping up with the Joneses. Which keeping up with the Joneses is going to cause such a problem in
You'll
your
be
marriage.
divorced like the Joneses.
Right.
They're divorced.
Yes.
Because they're trying to buy materialistic things and make it look like they have a family that's together, and then all of a sudden everybody's like, what happened to them?
Right.
They're divorced. And this is something, this nurturing idea is building something for later on when the kids are gone. What type of relationship and marriage
Yes.
do you have when all the work, the distractions of the children,
has
and
settled.
y'all starting to retire and come out of these roles? Who are you looking at in the face? How much time have y'all spent
Do you
together?
still know them? Because I've heard older couples say that. Like when they get into the retirement, empty nester phase, it's just like, I don't even know them anymore because I was so involved in the children and the tending and forgot to still date each
Yes.
other, forgot to still make time for each other. Like Anthony and I, there's moments where I feel like we've drifted apart. And I'm like, hey, we gotta
You better get
come back.
you better get back in there, because especially when men and women start reaching mid 40s, early 50s,
There's a lot of changes that happen right there.
dangerous. It's dangerous. I don't think people really understand how dangerous that time is. Let me tell you all of the issues you're coming up against. You're coming up against ailing parents.
Yeah.
So now we got to try to take care of our parents, or they're getting sick. So that's a pressure. Now the children are probably going to college. So that's financial pressure. They're getting into their world. Now you got biological pressures, and that a lot of people don't talk about.
Right.
The men's testosterone level is going down. The woman's estrogen level is going down. There's a lot of hormonal issues that cause a lot of friction.
Right.
But we don't talk about that. We just think, I really hate them for some reason, and I don't know why. Like, I really don't like your voice anymore.
Like,
but it's
I don't know how
hormonal.
irritating that was.
Yeah, and we're not going to the doctor. We're not saying, can you check my hormonal levels? And this all happens in that midlife 40s, 50 range.
Right.
And we're just like, I'm just sick of my spouse and I want to get rid of them. I want them to go away. That was so horrible. That's why I choked on it. But it's true. And we have to look at that. Mm-hmm. We have to understand that is a real thing that happens to couples
Yeah.
that nobody's talking about.
Right.
Why were they married for 20 years and now they got a divorce? Because the life issues, they didn't talk about anything ever.
Especially back then. A lot of things were just swept under the rug. We don't need to talk about it. We just coast in life. And we have to stop coasting. And that's why it's good to have these conversations.
Yeah.
It's good to break it down. And, and we've gotten feedback from so many, women that have talked about the things that we've talked about here because it's not spoken.
It's not spoken.
And we need it because marriages right now, the statistics are growing with the number of divorces that are happening.
And you have a lot of divorces happening after 20 years when it's like, why? You're getting older. You need some help. Like you might need help.
Right.
Why are you getting rid of somebody at 50 years old? Who's going to visit you? Who's going to help you if the health goes downhill?
Right.
Why are you so willing to run at that point in life? And so it's important for people to see those things come and even plan for it. Hey, babe, so, let's make sure we get our physicals more regularly.
Right.
Let's make sure we're connecting with each other emotionally. Hey, we've been married 20 years. I know you had to have changed by now. Who are you today?
Right.
Who are you today? And am I meeting your needs at this point in the marriage? That I know what I used to do worked, but I know right now you have different needs.
Right.
I want to check in on those different needs.
And that's nurturing.
That's nurturing.
That's nurturing. It's not just nurturing the kids, but nurturing your relationship.
Yes.
And it's not just the women, nurturing the husband, but it's both parties. Both spouses.
If a men, if you don't think about checking in with your wife and seeing her life changes,
right,
you're missing something, and then you're wondering why she's the way that she is. It's because you are not checking to see what makes her happy at this part of her life. Women probably go through 20 phases in their lifetime. Woo. So it's like, and I know that's so complex, but men, check in and ask her. It's very simple. How can I meet your needs where you are today?
Yeah.
Because the needs change with children, with job changes, with all of that. The needs change. And so once you all have that nurturing relationship, it helps with intimacy.
It does. It actually slides right on in there with that, with intimacy, because if we're nurturing each other, if we're checking in with each other,
yes,
that's just going to draw us closer together.
Yes.
And that's going to allow for that intimacy to blossom, because intimacy is not just sex.
No.
It's not. It's more so that connecting and becoming one.
Yes.
And that's what we really need to understand as well. And I feel like the Book of Solomon helps us with that as well. But we don't talk about that.
No, we don't talk about it. We're going to talk about it next week.
Yes.
We're going to talk about intimacy, seeing into me.
Yes.
But you got to see into me, like mentally, emotionally, and then I will allow you really, into my space. And so that is next week.
Yes.
On Love Essentials. Again, happy holidays.
Yes.
And we'll see you next week.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you got something out of the episode.
If you want to connect with us, you can email us at loveessentialsshow@gmail.com.
Or check us out on Facebook at Love Essentials.
Or Instagram at The Love Essentials.
You can also check me out on Hannah's World Podcast on Spotify or iTunes.
And check me out at towerbody.com, where you can pick up my latest book, Marriage is a Beautiful Thing, But I Wish I Would Have Known. We appreciate you watching our show today. Take care.
Bye.